You'll introduce it.
Welcome to Life is for Living. I'm your host, Kylee Buckley, and I'm here with David J Riddell from the School of Living Wisdom. And tonight we are reflecting on Charlie Kirk and on what has happened. And David's going to talk a little bit about perhaps what's brought us to this point in society. David?
Yes, some of the concepts that set people up to hostilize anybody who disagrees with them, who can't believe that their own narrative could be so false, who are angry because they can't distinguish between opposition and hate speech. And I think these are key factors that played out in the assassination of our truth speaker, Charlie Kirk. And we may see some more have to be martyred for the cause in the next little while, as well as the left becomes increasingly hateful and paranoid about anybody disagreeing with them or hurting their feelings. For example, the liberal hysteria that Charlie Kirk faced day after day, as does Ben Shapiro, as does Jordan Peterson, as do some of those British and UK speakers that we've been listening to. This liberal hysteria, I think, is often symptomatic of PTSD. Now, you know that post-traumatic stress disorder is recognized by the phenomena of being triggered. And people lose their minds when they get triggered, literally. Their bruise is pressed on and rage manifests. I think that liberal hysteria is very rarely only ever recognized as post PTSD because something's driving the idealists and the hard left brigade that invokes crucializing simply because they've been challenged or disagreed with. Triggered to the point of misconstruing any disagreement or challenge as somehow being violence against the weak, against the poor, against a certain race or a gender or a sexual group. Crucializing is a symptom of having experienced post-traumatic stress disorder. And I do think that young people are more vulnerable to it because they haven't figured out A, that they are being triggered, and B, what was the original bruise or injustice or outrage that can eclipse their own mind and their own thinking. You know the stories of the child who was bullied flying into a rage when they hear their own child has been bullied. And their response can be completely over the top. That's what I'm talking about. The stating of facts, the reinforcement of discipline misconstrued as oppression of their identity, is the phrase you will often hear, or creating their powerlessness. Speaking the way you are, I feel like you are raping my ideology and my powerlessness, or weaponizing facts. You're weaponizing facts. You're weaponizing outcomes. Charlie said, when did stating a fact become weaponizing a fact? And why did you buy into that psychosis? Liberal hysteria, Kylie, doesn't take the Constitution on free speech seriously because the underlying assumption is that you have no right to ever say or do anything that is personally offensive to me. If you have personally offended me, then you're guilty as charged because you've hurt my feelings, and therefore there should be a law to protect me from you and your verbal abuse. And you know, abuse now has become confused with just not liking what you're saying.
100%.
Now, the next concept is lockstep. also known as intellectual phase locking. And that's where a bunch of people who should know better end up agreeing to a fantasy. It's a kind of collusion between the idealists, a collusion between the ideologues. We see it with the Marxist professors in the universities. We see it with the anti-creationists. And I think Hans Christian Andersen's brilliant story of the Emperor's New Clothes says it all, if you know that story. Fudging and merging to conform, to avoid taking fire, is a true politician's defense system, isn't it? And this is something that Charlie Kirk never did. He would never fudge to avoid taking fire. Also included are the media's procuration of government funds and of universities' need to present a single narrative in order to meet the conditions to procure those lucrative research grants. If you didn't get into lockstep with the intelligentsia and the politics of the day, your funds could be cut off because they're so reliant on government liberality. Well, hey, them that pay the piper call the tune, which means that universities cannot be free to teach as their professors lead. They must follow a lockstep line. Research grants are how universities fund themselves, and they've only got to suspect that research grants will be pulled if they have a professor who starts rocking the boat or students who start disagreeing. Here's the thing, how many scientific journal reviews have you read lately where their editors pre-selected peer reviews according to the fashionable views of the Darwins and the Faucis of the day? Have you ever read any creation science articles or reports scathingly critical of mRNA vaccinations in any such journals at all? No, you haven't. That voice is completely suppressed from the top down. And these are the leading scientific journals of the world, Kylie. They insist that, science is settled on the matter, that creation is for loonies, and the science speaks with one voice. And so when you hear this phrase that science speaks with one voice, or compassion speaks with one voice, you got to start wondering whose voice that's going to be. So that's lockstep, and lockstep is first cousin to echo chamber. And I believe that the assassin got himself into an echo chamber via what was being taught amongst his friends and mates and via the media. Now here's one, the privatization of truth. The privatization of truth means there can be no room for absolute truth or objective truth. Now all truth has become subjective. And this is the present Western liberal paradigm. Academics who are so deficit in epistemological discipline that they can't even distinguish the difference between absolute and relative truth. Absolute truth, which is true and objective and scientifically verified, is now downgraded to and at the service of emotional subjectivity, personal construction, cultural norms, and tribal protocols. Now, when did absolute truth degenerate into tribal protocols? That's what happens in an echo chamber. That's what happens when people lock step. And no man doubts whatever is right in his own eyes. Justice now becomes the whimsical servant of fashionable politics and mob rule judgments. And we've seen mob rule judgments now due to media, due to everybody tapping into the same sources of news delivery, and due to those voices being tweeted and retweeted until it goes viral, as they say. So my truth becomes the common phrase. Have you talked about people saying, that does not conform to my truth. That's just your truth.
Yeah.
When did truth go up for grabs? There is no personal possession of truth, is there? Only the recording of one's own experience. I believe that reality pre-existed us. I believe that truth pre-existed us. It's not for us to make it up as we go along, is it?
No.
And yet that's what's become experience, and that's what's become acceptable. You
Would you?
know, to make words and systems and concepts make sense, we've got to be agreeing to the same thing.
Hmm.
But different concepts are being used in different ways now. You heard that analogy of the elephant. Five people experience an elephant in five different ways.
Hmm.
That no blind observer gets to claim a monopoly on the elephant's description, but only that part of the elephant that he or she personally experiences.
Hmm.
And so we're talking here about different perspectives on the same reality. We're not talking about multiple realities.
Hmm.
And that's a subtle difference that a lot of people can't get their head around. Now,
Hmm.
one of the things that Charlie Kirk really got into trouble over was refusal to use personal pronouns. He believed that personal pronouns must conform to chromosomes. Otherwise, we lose our grip on reality, which is exactly what he observed amongst thousands of college students.
I bet.
That they were giving up their grip on one reality.
Yeah.
And his peer, Ben Shapiro, commented one day, facts don't care about your feelings, and science only knows two genders. And
Good.
Charlie Kirk, he asked one of the students, he said, if you were called to a medical emergency and your male penis-bearing patient was complaining that they were having a miscarriage, would you treat him as if he was, for fear of hurting his feelings? Hey, if you're already referring to him as her, where is the end of this slippery slope going to take you? And so he was able to point out the craziness and the insanity of some of the ways of thinking that the students were going down, and some of them loved him for it, and some of them hated him for it enough to kill him.
Mm, that's right. That's right.
When we lose our common view of true truth and absolute truth, then every man does what is right in his own eyes, and then the fights really break out because there
Mm,
is no agreement on what shape reality has.
hmm. Yeah, we've lost our way, I think, through all this indoctrination through the schools.
And that's what
People
we call
way.
postmodernism. Have you heard of postmodernism? It
Hmm.
includes the Marxist insistence that human beings are malleable to whoever holds the utopian realms. It always eventually becomes a religious battle as myopic views of dystopian states battle higher perspectives. You know, the dystopian state is the thing to fear. They have an ideal in mind, and the ideal justifies the means. And
Hmm.
so they don't really mind who they lock up or imprison or kill because the dystopian dream justifies it. It's so dangerous.
Mm.
Well, that's gives you a taste of where we're going, and watch out for those speakers that I mentioned earlier. They'll help us stay on the right track and avoid this social populist drift into every person doing whatever's right in their own eyes,
Hmm.
which is a recipe for chaos, isn't it?
Well, I think we're there. We're getting there.
Well, we're certainly there in places, but Charlie did say something that I found interesting. He said that actually the youth of today are the most conservative we've had, in a sense that they're all asking for reality. Give us back reality. We need some absolutes by which we can navigate our lives.
Yes.
So he found that the current student population was really hungry, very hungry, and he was a man for his season and a man for his time, and hopefully he's leading the way.
Yeah, well, definitely. Yeah, I think definitely. You know, you get it all in the Bible, guys. It's all there. It's the Ten Commandments. It's really simple. You live your life by that. That's a good start.
We have turned everyone to his own way, but the Lord has laid the iniquity of us all upon his Son, that we may find a way out of our chaos.
Yes,
Hallelujah.
yes, there is a way. That's right. Thanks, David.
Great talking and great remembering. A true hero, a
Yeah,
mighty oak, has fallen in the forest this week.
has indeed. But we all have a responsibility to carry the flame.
Yeah, we'll do our
So,
bit, eh?
see you, everybody.